everybody, and welcome back to The Search. My name is Lisa, and I want to welcome everybody back. If you are new here, we upload every Thursday night at 8 p.m. And also, what we like to do is do a premiere. So that way that you can enjoy with the group and the fellow searchers in here with us. I like to call my family the Search Warriors. So it helps you kind of, I would say, camaraderie, a little more bond within the community with each other, which is what I want. Together we can help our platform grow. It can also help find justice, which is what we're trying to do. So thank you for all the people that have returned, and for everyone that's new. I hope that you appreciate the episode. I focus on a lot of unsolved crimes, to include missing, murders, and also some trafficking. Now, if this is your first time or you are coming back, this case is actually the last case of our second season. I cannot believe it, guys. I cannot believe that we have now concluded, after tonight, 2 seasons. The first season, I believe we did 10 cases or 10 episodes. And this one, I want to say we were at 13 after tonight. It is so amazing. After tonight, I am just going to let you know that we are taking off for a week. I am going to fly up to Ohio area, which not only is it my best friend, but she is my editor, Trisha, and also her fiance. I absolutely adore them, been with them for a long time. And like I said, she is the other half of my team and helps put my shows together. I'm going up there not only to visit, but we are going to be working on scenes with some things. So guys, stay tuned. Okay, stay tuned, because third season. So next week we will be off, but after that we start back, and we will be third season, new things, adding things, and it's going to be amazing. So again, be looking forward to that. I'll be making announcements. Make sure you're following my socials on my TikTok, Instagrams, X, everywhere there's a social media. I am there. Conquer Life, Lisa Conquering Life. You'll find me. Also, The Search with Lisa. Let's get into this, guys. I just want to do a little extra opening because it's going to be such big moves hopefully coming, and I'm excited to finally do some things on scene and do some traveling involving the search. So, all right, guys, tonight's episode is something a little different. I haven't done one, and this is what I like. I'm exploring some new avenues, and what I'm finding my passions to lean towards. Missing is always deeply in my heart. Let's just get into it. You'll see what I mean, because I am big about bringing awareness to things. This case tonight is actually one that is solved, so stay tuned. You're going to know the whole shebang. Now remember, all this is for educational purposes. I am not a detective. I just basically deliver what I find to be factual, and I enjoy hearing what your comments, theories are. Tonight I'm talking about Jacquelyn Smith and Kevin Smith. They are a married couple. Our victim in this situation is Jacquelyn Smith. I like to tell you a little bit about our people involved, because before we get to these horrific things, they had such amazing lives. I don't want them to just be known as a victim, because they were known for so much more than that. So I like to let you know, that way we can break down the wall, okay? I'm going to let you know a little bit about Miss Jacquelyn. She was born Jacquelyn Ann, and was born on July 4th, 1964. She was 54 years old at the time of her murder on December 1st. But let's not get into that. Let's talk about who she was. Her family would say Jackie will be forever remembered as a loving, giving, intelligent, independent, strong-minded, and very witty. Jacquelyn actually grew up in Rhode Island, and that's where her mom, I believe, still lives in Rhode Island. She was educated and attended Catholic school when she was growing up. that already just tells you that spiritually where she is at. And I think that sets the character for what she became as an adult. As growing up, she enjoyed music, she enjoyed poetry. She actually went to North Carolina A&T State University. I am actually from North Carolina, so I am familiar with that, and it is a very well known, nice school. Jacquelyn eventually went on to be an electrical engineer. That's hard, okay? Like my son is an engineer. So it is no walk in the park, guys, to go to school, study as an engineer. It tells you that she had goals. She had her mind was very intact and her goal oriented in what she wanted to do. That is a very tough field to be in. She worked in Aberdeen providing around Army Research Facility, roughly about 37 miles from Baltimore, which she then further moved to. Now, Jacquelyn also has two adult sons. They were ages 19 and 25. One son's name, I believe, was Kendall, and had another one named David. She was very proud of them. One big thing that she was big about was education. So not only for herself, but for her sons. And so, like I said, she had one that was 19, one that was 25. And I believe that one of her sons was actually at the University of Maryland at the time. And then I believe David, the other one, was a 19-year-old and was a sophomore in college. So I'm telling you, they were definitely doing right. So this just state tells you not only was she a wonderful character, wonderful person, she also was a great mother. Sounded like her kids were definitely on the right track. Kendall, he was a graduate of Pennsylvania and now it was with the U.S. Coast Guard. So one in college, one graduated U.S. Coast Guard. Can't ask much more, can you? Especially at the young ages of 19 and 25. So that just kind of gives you a little background of what Miss Jacquelyn was about and what a precious person she was. She ended up getting with a man by the name of Keith Smith. Now, Jacquelyn and Keith were married in 2014. It was a second marriage also for both of them. The couple lived over in Aberdeen, which is, like I said, about 25 miles from Baltimore. They would be married for only about 4 years before the dreadful day of what happens to Jacquelyn. A little bit on the story of Keith. Keith was a truck driver for U.S. Lumber, and apparently he too had been married before, and he had a daughter, Valeria Smith, from the previous marriage. Now, Valeria was the stepdaughter that was in the car with her that night that everything happened. So, just to be clear, her kids are not with her. It is her husband Keith, that she had been with, already married to 4 years, and then his daughter, her stepdaughter, Valeria Smith. Okay? So now we're going to get into what happened. So I'm going to take you to the night, and we are actually going to start with the 911 call and what happens December 1st, 2018, Baltimore, Maryland. It is actually a major city in Maryland. The population is actually like not as much as it was then, but very busy city, I want to let you know, and known for some crime. It's approximately about 12:30 when 52-year-old Keith Smith frantically to 911. He reports that he and his 50-year-old wife were driving his 28-year-old daughter home when a panhandler, in his words, stabbed his wife while she was attempting to give money. He explains to the operator that they are at the stop sign at the corner of Valley and Chase Street While on the phone, Keith is rushing his wife to Johns Hopkins. A little over a mile from the Keith claimed the attack happened at 12:34 on December 1st, like I said. Now, I just wanted to give you that introduction. I'm going to take you down to what happens. Like I said, they are out. It is Valeria's birthday, her 28th birthday. So, all three of them go out. Jacquelyn, Keith, and Valeria. They're going out that night. They're in Baltimore, and they are leaving to go on back home. When they are on their way back home, being the kind-hearted person that Jacquelyn is, she had seen a woman holding a baby, and this was on the corner of Valley and Chase Street. It's December 1st. It's Baltimore. It's cold. All right, it's after midnight. They actually were out November 30th, but by now it's after midnight, so we are in to December 1st. So she tells Kevin, listen, pull over. I want to give them a little money. It's cold. They've got a baby, and her heart just felt compelled to do this. He pulls over, and she gives something to the woman. And the woman is very thankful. The person that was with the woman, the husband, the boyfriend, whatever, says to her, can I please, like, shake your hand, give you a hug? Like he asked before he steps up on the car. She never gets out the car. Steps up, oh, on there. Can I do that? Because, like, they felt so blessed that she did that. Valeria is in the back seat, guys, and said that when the man came up, Keith tells him, the man came up to do it. He then attacks her right then with a knife, stabbing her, I believe, 5 times, even giving some like lashes. Ends up stealing, I believe, her purse, her necklace, and a wallet, things like that. All right. That is when Keith makes this phone call in a frantic mode, like what has happened. All right. So anyway, he drives to Johns Hopkins Hospital. When he arrives there, Keith said taking his wife at 12:40 a.m. After trying to save her, the hospital doctors actually pronounced his wife dead with stab wounds. She had been murdered. How or why does random man this just happened? This is what he is stating that happened. Supposedly now, he jumps out the car, he puts it in park and gets out and actually chases the individual. But while he was chasing them, he realizes, oh, my wife is in the back in the car dying. So he needed to run back to the car instead and got in the car, and then he calls 911 and started driving to the hospital. That was only about a mile away. At 1:32 a.m., homicide detectives investigate the hospital to begin the investigation. Jacquelyn, by then, of course, now had passed at the hospital. When the homicide detectives, show up, of course, she is gone. So this is definitely a murder. Now, after talking at the hospital a little bit, they transport Keith and his daughter, and I say they, meaning the detectives, to homicide and the police station so that they could give their formal statements, which is normal, after something like this has happened. Keith now adds more details to the account of what happened that night at the police station. He says that on November 30th, 2018, which is the day before, like I said, that day, it just leaded over to the middle of the night. We have a lot of cases that happens. So, him, Jacquelyn, Valeria went out, like I said earlier, to celebrate the birthday. They actually went to the American Legion Hall that was located on 1502 Madison Avenue in Baltimore. He said they danced and ate dinner. They ate so good. They drank and they took like photos, a lot of pictures. It was just like a really nice celebration for the birthday. He said that his daughter gave directions through the East Baltimore back to the place so they could drop her off. So his daughter lives in Baltimore and they live like outside of Baltimore. So he has to drive to Baltimore, drop his daughter off, and when planning to head back home with his wife is when the first noticed the female panhandler. So if that makes sense. So they're at the Legion. They leave after all the partying and they live on one area. Valeria lives different. So she is giving directions where to get through, which why it puts them in this like area that they normally would not be in. Okay, so that if I hope that makes a little more sense, and also maybe could justify why they were in that area. So I'm trying to be as clear as I can with these facts because whoa, is this a case? Now, after the investigators talk and get as much information, which happens normally in any situation, they head on down to Old Chasin Valley, where the incident happened at. This would still be in the middle of the night. Remember, now it's a few hours gone by. So it's dark, but they still were like, we need to go look at this. It's dark. That does hinder things, but right after that, they went right on down there, right there in the middle of the night. Maybe they could see like people hanging around, they could get some witnesses. It's the middle of the night. If people are homeless, they're probably staying put, like warmed up, trying to get some sleep, whatever. Might be actually the perfect time to go down there. And during that time, the police were unable to actually locate any scenes relative for evidence there. When they basically saying when they got down there wasn't anything showing them in that location that something had happened. For example, like allegedly any blood, any like weapons, anything like that. Nothing found. It just looked like a regular street. Now, I will tell you this. When they interrogated Valeria or asked her questions and also him separately, their stories were exactly the same. The daughters and the dads. They were exactly the same, okay, guys? In separate interviews, they said, we were sitting in the car. We pulled over to give money. The guy ran up, stabbed her, and they both ran away. But police are just having a little hard time processing this because they're not finding any evidence to back up these matching statements. Either way, police were going to investigate this no matter what, guys. Like, they weren't just gonna like lie down and go, well, I mean, I guess that's what happened. No, that's not what we do when we have a woman that has been attacked. It's only day one, and they offer their condolences to the family and they send them home. Next step would be if the panhandlers like took off, right? Then they could go look on video surveillance. We're looking for ring doorbells. We're looking for people with cameras. We're looking for anything on that street that can pick up any evidence. If you have a camera out, bam, there we go. We've got our evidence. Hopefully, we can identify these people, especially if they're homeless walking around with a baby panhandling. I don't see this being too hard to find. There are things that would stand out. Because if they used a knife to stab her, also, guys, you can't just clean up a knife immediately and there would be no leftovers. So if it happened exactly where they say and they go down there, there's no blood, there's no people, there's no evidence. Listen, something's not something. You know what I mean? Something is not something. The police interviewed people who lived in the area and they consistently said no. We did not see anything. We didn't like hear anything. But also, let me tell you something interesting they said. We never even seen panhandlers in this area. They don't operate here. This isn't the area for that, which was very interesting because when the police did go down there, the street wouldn't be like so filled. It actually was a very lonely looking street. All right. Now, if you are a panhandler, is this somewhere you would go? A deserted street, really? Or like where there's barely any traffic or anything? No. You would be in the city. Baltimore is a big city. Why would you go out of your way to just stand in the middle of somewhere where there's nobody really at, meaning you're not going to get much money. But if you are out to do a crime, maybe you would look for something a little more deserted and you basically just need that one person to pull over. Could be a theory. We'll see. They're saying it just doesn't make sense that it would be a place someone would need to get money because there's no traffic. So your chances of getting money is not very high. What they did was they went ahead, went back. They actually discussed some of these. After their statements, they started really kind of checking things out when they realized that there was no weapons found. Detective Burgard, Singer, and also Santis went and checked, like they checked in the houses. Most of the places down there were mainly vacant houses. Now, what they did is they went and investigated their car, all right, which was a 2012 Audi A7. I don't know much about cars, so I hope that I said all those right. Anyway, when they looked in there, it had been parked outside next to the hospital, okay, where he parked it to run inside to take Jacquelyn into the police transport in the crime lab in the police headquarters. The police processed the car for fingerprint, of course, for blood, both inside the vehicle and outside of it. They found blood inside the front passenger door, which matches the story as they found one set of prints on the exterior of the passenger side, again matching the story. But there were no prints recovered from the exterior of the car. After this, the detectives began trying to identify and locate this suspect. And one thing I want to tell you as homicide, actually, they started getting out their resources. They were not just taking this like these are random people. Unfortunately, when it comes to the missing or the unsolved cases, if it is involving people that are homeless, sometimes these cases just get thrown out or people get the blame later on. The correct justice is not served. So I want to do again a shout out to Detective Brigard, Singer, and Santis because they definitely were going, they weren't stopping. They were going to get some answers. So they went ahead and reached out to the homeless outreach team, an effort to find suspects. Okay, so like there's obviously teens, there are undercover people, there's people that are aware. There are actually informants that work in the homeless community, that they try to work with because of the drugs and everything going through. So they have their resources. On December 1st, detectives also notified the Baltimore Police Department's pawn shop unit of the items that Keith had reported were stolen from his wife. So they said that they stole the necklace for the wallet, stole everything from like the necklace to the wallet. And on December 2nd, the homeless outreach team and Crime Stoppers put out flyers in the area. Keith and Valeria gave multiple grief-stricken interviews to law enforcement and to media. And the days following the murder gave press conferences maintaining his story. Now, what I want to tell you is, in part of his stories, and I'm not going verbatim, but basically, he was out there talking about what happened Now, there are, of course, panhandlers out there in Baltimore and other big cities. You're going to see that. Some truly are standing there holding their baby. A lot of times, CPS is involved, especially when young children are there. But the last thing they need is a stigma put out on them that they are stopping people and stabbing them when they are not, when they're simply trying to get help. Now, what they use their money for is not what we are discussing today. But there are people, there are vets that are homeless. There are people that are homeless that just got a raw deal. Mental health illness is on a rise like no other. Okay? So now we've got this man that is now making people more scared to even approach a homeless person or a panhandler, okay, to help them a little bit because, they could walk up and stab you. And I'm not saying that that is not what can happen. But to put that out there can cause a little bit of extra edginess, extra scariness, and things that homeless people don't need on them anymore. They already got enough on their shoulders. And some are just trying to make it day by day. They're not hurting people, they're just trying to make it. And I will say, one thing you don't hear a lot about is panhandlers attacking people that give them money, right? You don't really hear too much of that, especially ones that have babies, okay? That is one thing that I felt was kind of weird. And I was like, that is something. But there's a lot we don't hear, which is why a lot of people like myself try to find things that aren't too popular or that aren't high profile so that people do know what's going on. Guys, I want to move forward. I think we get the gist of what's been going on through all this, all right? Like I said, we have pretty much told the story where this has happened. He calls 911, he goes to the hospital. They go up, they investigate, they go back to the scene, they don't find anything. They go around the next morning, they look, it is more of a deserted place. As they talk to people around that area, it is not known for a panhandling place. Very odd situation. Like I said, this was not a normal place that they traveled through, but the daughter, it of course was her birthday, and they were taking her back home, so they were taking a different way because she lived, on a different side. So now, through all this, they have been getting involved in getting the surveillance tapes, getting things that they can find anything. All right. Doing this, they are not seeing anything. They are not seeing the audio that they have. They are not seeing what is supposed to have been on there. With this, the police received the cell phone information from Keith and Valerius's phone because the feds, by the way, do get involved. They can get in and try to pull up GPS and do whatever they can with the phones, try to start doing things like that, including not only their call history on their phones, but also their locations. No information is provided for the locations of Keith's phone, but perhaps because there was no activity on his phone from 9:30 p.m. until he called 911 after midnight. However, though, the daughter's phone was pinging in different locations than Keith and Valeria said they were that night. Specifically, Keith and Valeria said they drove southbound on Druid Hill Avenue after leaving the American Legion. However, Valeria's cell phone was pinging after the American Legion in the completely opposite direction, northwest of the American Legion, in Druid Hill Park near the Maryland Zoo, and it stayed there for 12 to 16 minutes. So neither Keith now nor his daughter mentioned going that direction and going over to the park. Interesting. Because remember, both their stories are the same. I want to tell you just a little information on it, that it is in Baltimore in the Northwest area. That's just me looking at the Google Maps and stuff. I'm not real familiar. I've been there to Baltimore, but not totally exact. The Maryland Zoo is a park and has a druid lake. Essentially, if American Legion, where they ate dinner, was sitting in the middle of the map, one direction would be towards Valeria's home and the Thousand Block Valley Street where Jacquelyn was attacked, and complete opposite of the direction would be Druid Hill Park, where they actually were that night. So, like I'm saying, by looking it up, where they said they were and where they were opposite directions. And just by looking at news and different things that I've found, I think that they were all coming to the same consensus. 3 days after Jacquelyn's funeral is held, followed by, it was actually Christmas, because now we're in December. During this time, police decide to dig up any more information they can on Keith. So, guys, the suspects are changing. Like, the suspicions are like, what is quite going on here? They are now starting to say, this is not coincidence. We are now looking at them. Okay, we want to start investigating more. They start looking into Keith's background and Valeria's. No arrest happened at that time. They're just looking for more evidence, so they discover Keith had a criminal past. Wow, so it doesn't make him guilty, but boy, this criminal past it's a doozy. It's a doozy, guys. I'm gonna warn you. Took a little sip of tea for this one. So, in 2001, Keith pled guilty to robbing the same bank in Maryland. Not once, but twice. 3 times was the charm. He robbed the same bank in Maryland, okay? Now, he did serve 6 years of the 12 years prison sentence for robbing with a deadly weapon. And also, he fled from the police. Now, in September 2000, he led the police on a chase, then chased into the city patrol car, sending the officer to the hospital. It was an awful crash. I also want to tell you what his reasons were for doing it. He had an excuse of what his reasons were. Said that in 1999 he lost his job with FedEx for points on his license. Okay. Also, he had found out that he was HIV positive. So at that time, he had a lot of medications that he had to cover that he no longer was able to because he was fired from his job and of course had no insurance and things. And in all seriousness, HIV medication, I'm sure, is not cheap. It does not give you the right to go rob anybody. But I'm just trying to look back at what stress maybe he's going through. Also, he had his daughter he had to take care of. These were things that he said why he did what he did. But he got caught. The first time he got away with $15,000. The second time he got away with $16,000. The third time, though, he was caught. So how long was he going to continue to do this? This tells me he's a repeat offender. And basically, as if he doesn't get caught, he continues to offend. He did end up spending 6 years in prison and then released. I'm going to just move forward. Basically, they start putting 2 and 2 together that something is not right, and basically they've got to get to this daughter too as well and talk with her because she's in the car and they want to know. And sometimes, as you see in police work, if they talk with one and let them know, hey, look, we know some things are going on. We've got GPS, we've got things showing, we've got your GPS, your cell phone, Valeria, has shown us that you were not where you said you were, and this is where you were at. Showed that they actually went to a park and sat for a while. They want some answers. Now, if you don't want to sit in jail for the rest of your life, maybe you might want to start talking. Now, I'm not speaking verbatim, but I'm saying basically this is how it's going. She agreed to testify. But let's back up just 1 second. Once she knew they knew stuff, she's like, she quits talking, lawyering up. And also, they find out that Keith had signed a year lease, already like confirmed a year lease down in Florida. And they had found where he had later, been searching up things like how to get across or where to go without passports. He did not have a passport on him. He was actually trying to go down Florida and make it over into, I believe, Mexico. He did not have a passport on him, but he could get through to the Virgin Islands with just his ID. Anyway, the way it works, because they know that they're getting ready to go down. They know that things are getting pieced together. They're following them. They had been using their phones to track them and stay on top of them. And Keith even tried to beat that. He even got rid of one phone, bought a burner for his daughter. They really thought that they were going to get out of things. And so he had been looking how to get into the countries. So flying wasn't one of them. They rented a car. The detectives were on it. They knew that they were trying to get out of the country so they could not be extradited or charged. And they were just going to go on. By the way, when I mentioned about him stating that he robbed these banks so that he could pay for his medicine and getting all these sympathy, HIV, da da da. When they went in and found his stuff, do you know they found like 20 grand stacked up? So no, he wasn't exactly robbing it for that purpose. I'm just letting you know what type of man this guy is. Any way he can manipulate, he does. All right. Well, sure enough, thank goodness they were on him and they were following him. By the time that they got to him and realized where he was at, he was only like 20 minutes from the border of Mexico. Basically, this is what really happens to Jacquelyn. Jacquelyn had talked about divorce. As you know, she was successful. There had been talk that she had actually brought up divorce before, and he had even mentioned things to others about policies. He had brought up things before and making sure. I want to tell you this, according to the CBS News, the police found this, that they determined that the day or two after the murder that Keith went to Jacquelyn's workplace to get paperwork for her life insurance policy in which he was the beneficiary, which is not weird. If your loved one dies, you should get your money. And also, you do need to do this if you're having a funeral. It's not exactly bad to go and start doing these things when you need the money, but when it's under homicide, you know, you just kind of gotta watch the way you do things, because actions speak louder than words. Valeria and Keith's daughter was previously married. She was 28 years old at the time of Jacquelyn's murder. And according to Heavy.com, an online database brings up prior cases, including assault and traffic violations for her. In 2017, she was charged with second-degree assault, disturbing the peace. Smith pled guilty to the assault charges and appeared to have been sentenced to probation. She reportedly has 2 children, but I couldn't find anything more about the children how I was on Jacquelyn. So that's basically that. What I want to say is, basically, they got Valeria to speak on what happened that night in return for lesser sentences. Of course, she said I wasn't going to go away for a murder that I did not create, do, want. So she spoke against her father. And basically, what happened was they did enjoy their night out. That was true. That part was true, her birthday. But on the way home, they pull over at that park that it does say where it shows they stop for 12 to 15 minutes. That is where he takes Jacquelyn's life. He then instructs his daughter to get rid of the purse, the wallet, and all that. She actually puts the wallet at a bus station and watches teens like flock and find it and take her cards out and whatever, because during all this the cards had been pinged on and been used. So she testifies this basically in the courtroom and admits there was no panhandlers doing this. Never ever did it involve that. After they waited, confirmed that she was gone, and then went on to John Hopkins. They had their story exactly in place with the panhandlers. They may would have wanted to choose a place that actually had panhandlers, but everything happens for a reason. Guys, I know that this was a little drawn out in places because I wanted you to understand what lengths they went to. They also felt that his daughter was somewhat caught up in also an abusive from him. She was commanded to do these things to help him. I mean, if she didn't, what could have happened? You don't know. He's had issues in the past. So she felt a lot of remorse for what happened. But, instead of all this rigmarole running around, she should have immediately like done something, but that's here nor there. I'm just stating of what happened. So during that time where it does show they stopped, that is when she actually lost her life. Her mom still is alive, speaking on her behalf of how good she truly was. Her sister made amazing comments. Friends, people that knew her obituary was absolutely beautiful. I just want to tell you guys that there was justice served in 2021. He was convicted and received life. So he will not be getting out. I want to thank the detectives for pursuing the families, for not giving up. I know that the daughter was originally, I think, given 12 years. She's serving 6, from what I understand. And the reason, too, also that they believe how she was kind of like a victim, because there were times when she was diagnosed with bipolar, did not receive the proper help. She was also a victim of, or with mental illness, and was on heroin. Times like that, she was very vulnerable and did what he said, but she still knew right from wrong. So I'm glad that she testified. She took accountability for everything she said. She also helped convict her father, and maybe she will get the help that she needs, because unfortunately, guys, she will be back out and be a person in this society. We want to wish the best so that no other person is harmed. Again, she did not do it herself, but was a part of it. So that kind of concludes this story. It's kind of been duped, the panhandler killer, and it was her husband. I want to just say at this time, guys, this concludes our season. Not only our episode, but it concludes our season 2 of the search. I hope that you appreciated tonight's broadcast. And please subscribe. We are trying to hit our 500 subscribers very soon. We are in the middle of April. We're hoping maybe by the end of April, no later than May. So please share it, like it. Please leave comments. Where did things go wrong? If you want, leave a magnifying glass. That lets me know that you listened to the whole episode, and that means so much too. The object is to help grow. We need so many search warriors out there to help find our missing and unsolved cases. So Please make sure that you follow me on all my socials. That way you will see that when we come back. So we will not be on next Thursday, but we will be back the following Thursday. I will be putting things in the community, so if you are subscribed, you will know. Again, it has flown by. I am so blessed to have had y'all and help push what I believe so strongly in. So at the end of every episode, I like to do a ribbon that represents a prayer for justice. When I do episodes that we already have justice, I like to do a ribbon with their name on it, and I put it on my board. Strength for the family, strength for all the families that we have done and covered. So this one is for Jacquelyn Smith, 54 years old, and she was taken December 5th, 2018. That concludes season 2, and I hope that you learned from this episode today that one, a panhandler did not do this, especially a lady holding a baby. So please, if your gut tells you that you want to help somebody on the street, please do. Instead, this was a crime of someone that was just evil and took a beautiful woman for his own gain. Well, he can think about it because now he's sitting for life. I thought that this was something we could learn from and not be so quick to jump the gun and believe something. People will say anything, won't they, to try to prove their innocence. Anyways, guys, thank you so much for all your support. Thank you for subscribing, sharing, putting your notifications on. I am excited to go and do some work. Third season is going to be amazing. We have come so far in just 2 seasons. We are on our road to partnership with YouTube, and I couldn't be more excited. In the meantime, guys, enjoy the next few weeks, and I will see you at the beginning of The Search with Lisa for season 3. Good night, everybody, and take care of yourself.